I'm Lavanya from YourPedia, and today we're going to learn everything you need to know about IELTS listening. So, as we have already covered, in IELTS there are four major sections: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Today we're going to focus on the very first section, which is listening. Okay, so an overview about the listening is that an audio will be played, and you'll be given a question booklet, and you have to answer all the questions written there while listening to the audio. So the audio normally lasts from somewhere between 20 to 30 minutes, and there are a total of 40 questions. These 40 questions are divided into four sections with 10 questions in each section. You must remember that these sections have different types of questions in them, and we will actually cover these different question types later in the video. So do look forward to that. Now, what are these sections like? If they're divided in four sections, what is the difference in them? The first section is actually the easiest one, and it is a form filling question. Basically, a telephonic conversation between two people where maybe a reservation is being made or cancelled, a booking of a hotel, or maybe they are conversing about an assignment or anything like that. So it is the most simplest question you will experience in your IELTS listening, and these are actually fun to do. The second is a conversation for an everyday social context. Now, this could be anything from going to the market or something like visiting a museum and someone explaining the map of the museum to you. So, section two is a conversation about everyday social context, and it always happens between 2 to 3 people. The third section is of educational context. Now, this conversation is about a student conversing to a professor about certain assignment, or maybe two students or three students conversing with each other. Okay, so this is how the third section will be like. Then the fourth section is actually a monologue. In this, a lecturer or a professor will be telling something about their research, and all the questions, the 10 questions in this are actually difficult, much more difficult than the previous three sections. So the vocabulary is actually growing in an increasing order of difficulty from section 1 to section 4, and the speed also increases. You must notice that section 1 will always be the easiest because this is just form filling, while in section 4 you will notice much harder vocabulary. You'll also see a lot of paraphrasing. So don't get scared. With a lot of practice, you can definitely ace this exam. But yeah, you have to mentally prepare yourself that in section 4 you should be much more concentrated than you were in section 1. Now, moving on, how are IELTS band scores given according to your score that you get in your listening? So for a listening score, you always should try to get above 30, which is 7 bands. And it's not that difficult to get even a 35, which is 8 bands in it. Okay, so always try to keep your score above 30. That should be your last lower limit. Okay. Now, let us actually understand the questions. We know there are 8 different types of questions, but there is one thing that is similar in all of them, and that is the same thing that we noticed in reading. This is this line: write no more than 2 words and or a number. Sometimes they write no more than 1 word. They always put a limitation on the amount of words you can write in your answer. And this is very important for the student to notice, because if there is a question like this, there is only a limited number of answers you can say. So the answer for this could be a 1 word, 2 words, 2 word and or a number, or just a number. Now in this, you have to notice that if you write 3 words, then your answer will be wrong. Now for the 3 words, it's even simple as writing an extra article, like even adding an a will make your answer wrong just because it made your answer 3 words. So make sure you always stay within the limit that has been specified. Now, how does IELTS actually calculate their words? Because sometimes there is a confusion in that. Let us tackle that too. Now, in IELTS, let us look at these examples. 80%, 9 a.m., at park, 2 dogs. How are these words considered? Are they 1 word? Are they a number? What is it? So, for 80%, 9 a.m., and money. For all of these, we actually consider it as one number. Why? Because symbols like these are considered as part of a number. While on the other hand, anything that is written physically in words, like August, 2 dogs, at park, is considered as 1 word. So the answer for these would be the first three are one number. But then 18th August and 1980s, which is a whole decade, is considered as 1 word. On the other hand, 2 dogs and at park are considered as 2 words. Anything that is hyphenated is considered as 1 word. Okay. Now, you must note that in IELTS, the audio is only played once. That is, if you miss an answer, it will not be replayed. So you must make sure that you're confident in yourself and that even if you miss an answer, you move on very quickly. The second is that there will be a range of a range of accents while you're listening to the audio. What does this mean? That maybe sometimes the accents will be American, sometimes they will be European, sometimes they might even be Russian, for all you know. Okay, so be prepared and prepare yourself, expose yourself to a lot of different accents so you're used to it. This is very important because in IELTS, sometimes students do get confused when they are, spelling out a specific pronoun or spelling out a specific name. So there's a lot of confusion between the A's and E's, the N and N's. So we must make sure that you are used to listening to these accents, and it would be good if you start watching some English movies or shows that will help you expose yourself to such things. Then the audio will always be clear. The audio always sounds a little bit artificial, like it's not really, comfortable to listen to. And that is actually good for you because if the audio is clear, you can obviously answer your questions well. Then you will given 10 minutes of transfer time in your pen paper based test. In the pen paper based test, what you will do is that once the audio starts playing, you will write your answers in the question booklet. After that, after the audio is done, you will be given 10 minutes extra to transfer your questions and answers from the question paper to your answer sheet. And that is very helpful because it gives you enough time to actually look at all your answers and make sure there are no spelling errors or anything like that. Then this is for pen paper based test. In computer based test, you're only given 2 minutes of revision time because you are attempting it in the paper. So always make sure that in your computer based test, whatever answer you're writing, you are writing it full confidence because 2 minutes are not even enough to look at all the 40 questions clearly. And maybe if there is spelling error, you will be losing one whole mark. Another thing that I must mention here is that there is no negative marking in IELTS listening. So do not get pressed that even if you write a wrong answer, it's better than leaving it blank. Okay? Then write all the answers in capital. This is a golden rule for all listening and reading. Because if in a proper noun you do not capitalize the first word, it is actually going to, make you lose your one band, like one score. And imagine from 30 you actually score 39, so you go from 7 directly from 7 to 6.5, and that is a big thing. So it's better to write everything in capitals. When I say all answers in capitals, I mean maybe the answer is king, so you will write king like this instead of writing only the first capital word. Okay, so write all the alphabets in capitals. Now, the different types of questions in IELTS listening. We are going to cover 8 different types of questions that are noticed in IELTS listening. The very first one is the most common one whenever it comes to section 1, that is form filling questions. Now, in these questions, there will be a telephonic conversation between two people, and certain form will be filled because of a reservation, some notes, or something like that. In this, it's basically fill in the blanks in a way, and these are super easy to do. What you have to do to attempt these tests is when you are given those 30 seconds to read the question, always predict the kind of answer you can write in the blanks. So, for example, in this question, visit places which have. So, the answers will probably be a quality about the places that you can visit. So, when you're listening to the audio, focus more when they start discussing the different qualities of the specific places. So, this way you can actually score well and you will not be missing any question here. The second form is map or plan completion. Now, this is a question that is considered difficult by many people, but once you get the tricks down, it will not be that difficult. The first thing you need to remember is that when there is a conversation going on and someone is explaining a map to someone, they are not actually visiting that place from one place to another. That is not going to happen. What they're doing is that the person speaking, the narrator, is actually explaining the map with a physical copy, just like we are listening to it. So you have to make sure that you look at the map with a bird's eye view. That is, your right and left, it does not change. Your directions never change. So the first trick that you have to remember is that when you receive your paper, at the very corner of it, you draw your directions, north and south and east and west. Okay, and that will help you to not switch them. Like if you start from here, from the entrance, and they tell you to take a left, then your directions, your left and right will not change. They will remain the same. And that's what you always have to keep in mind. To always have a bird's eye view. The second thing is that keep a note of all the places that are already mentioned or detailed in the map. That is things like river, the grinding shop, the engine room, the stables, the works office. So you have to make sure that you know where these places are. When you're given time for your map question and to read it through, make sure that you know everything that is already labeled and where it is. Third trick for this is that you know the sequence and where they start. So 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Why is it important to know? Because in listening test, the answers are always given in the sequence of the questions. So they'll probably say something about the road first, and then they'll something about this, and then this. So this sequence will continue till the very end. So it is very important for you to know that where the next question will be and where the next answer will be. Okay. These are the three main things that you need to practice to tackle your map and plan completion questions. And if you actually keep these three tricks in mind, I believe that you will score full on full for these questions. The next is multiple choice questions. Kind of confusing, but they are not that difficult either. Now, in multiple choice questions, what you have to do is you have to focus on the question first. Okay, mark the keywords in the question. Do not look at the options. Once the audio starts playing and you notice that this is the answer, always look at the options after that and then answer it. The major trap that they use in your multiple choice questions is that they read track from their words. As in, maybe they're talking about the number of books that they need, and they'll say, "Okay, I need 3 books." But then, in the next sentence, they'll go, "Oh no, maybe I miscalculated. I needed 4 books actually." Okay, so they'll retract from what they have said before. In these cases, you have to make sure that you do not fall into that trap and you pay attention to what they have said. Then the fourth type of question is note completion. Note completion is very similar to form filling. It is basically fill in the blanks, and you have to make sure that you are following all the notes and their location in this. So basically, when they're talking about 31, they will be talking about biodiversity hotspots, and that's where you have to keep an ear out to know that this is where the information will be. These are actually quite easy to do, though you will notice that these questions come in section 4, and that makes it a tad bit harder because in section 4, you're given very little time to read all your questions. Okay, because you're given 1 minute to read 10 questions. And while in other sections, you will get like 1 minute to read 5 questions. So your reading speed must be double of what it was before. So make sure that once the audio starts playing, you're very concentrated for such questions. After that, table completion. Table completion, according to me, are one of the easiest ones because in this you have to focus on what is written at the headings of the tables because that's where the information will be about. And then you just have to, see that okay, they'll first of all say this, then they'll say this, this, and this, and this. So there is a direct flow and the information that is being provided to you, and that makes it so much more easier for you to attempt table questions. After that, the sixth type of question is sentence completion. Again, similar to form filling. And thus, you have to focus on the words and the keywords that are written in the sentence. You need to know that in this, they use a lot of synonyms and paraphrasing because they will not use the direct keywords from the audio. So make sure once you're given time to read your sentence completion questions, you read them thoroughly and you actually understand them and are not just looking for direct keywords because there is a huge chance they might not use them. Now, short question answers. Short question answers are kind of difficult to attempt sometimes, but other times they're just too easy. The major trap that you will notice in these questions is that maybe it's a question like 2 factors that make social contact in a foreign country difficult. Now, in this, they might say 4 or 5 different points, but they might disagree with 2 or 3 of them. And there will be only 2 points that they agree with, and you have to make sure that once you're listening to the audio, you pay attention and you do not fall for these traps whenever they disagree or with a point or whenever a point doesn't fit. So in a question like this, always mark, like physically mark your keyword so that you do not get distracted by what they are saying and you get stay focused on the particular question. So in a question that says which types of community group does the speaker give examples of, and this just say that examples of the type of community group, and you have to stay focused on that no matter how many times they backtrack that information or they say false information. Just say stay focused on this. After that, the last type is matchings. Now matchings are kind of difficult for many students, but with enough practice they do get easier. In matchings, you're given multiple options for a few questions, and you have to make sure that you focus on both the options and the question. So read the question first, mark the keywords, and then look at the options for the answer while listening to the audio. It's a lot of multitasking, and that's the reason it requires practice. Otherwise, these questions are actually easy. The only thing is that students get confused where they should focus more on the questions or on the options. The thing is that you have to first of all look at the question and then look at the options, because sometimes there might be a lot of paraphrasing. If you only look at the question and answer it according to the audio, for example, you just write anything here but you do not actually look at these things. Then, once the audio has been played and 40 questions are done and over with, and you are given 10 minutes of transfer time, you might not even remember what the audio was about, and you might not find the correct answer in these. So, it's better that you read the question and then focus on the options to make it easier for yourself to answer these things. All right. Now, the golden tip for listening is that if you miss one answer, always move on. Okay, do not get stuck on it, do not fumble, because if you miss one question and you get stuck on it and you start saying that maybe they'll say it again, that is not going to happen. What will happen is that you, because of that one question, you will miss a few more, and that will be a disaster. So we have to avoid that at all cost and just move on. If you miss one question, it is all right, you can still get a good band score. So even if you miss an answer, just do not panic and move on to the next one immediately. Now, this was it for our listening test for IELTS. I hope that everything was clear. Have a good day, and I'll be back next week with more videos.